Welcome, everyone. This is Pilot News, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest in LOTRO and hear LOTRO players. And this week, I'm joined by Cinders
Hello.
and Sanswinda.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Are you ready for some exciting Volvo release notes?
Always, I'm sure.
Always. Well,
Only
yeah,
the exciting
that's
ones, though.
okay. Well, I'll see how. Let's see how exciting we can make this. Well, first of all, in the main thing, and therefore the testing phase, we have the kingdoms of Harad are continuing along, where they now have access to 3 of the regions: Adagim, Ansharu, and Kikhin. And Kikhin was once the crossroads and breadbasket of Murghala, suffered greatly through the cataclysms wrought by Ordekai sorcerers and the occupation that followed. However, in Zajana, a great city in the center of trade, the din of discontent grows. The storied history of the region's former kingdom stirs the people to action once more. Dordowards hold sway here as they reforge old alliances. They aim to overthrow their occupiers and will aid those who aid them. All right, and the changes they have a special note as part of our ongoing effort to improve performance in large combat situations. We have streamlined the skill and skill queue messaging. Please engage in combat with your fellows and let us know if anything seems off about firing or queuing skills. So they're doing some tests then in the queuing messaging to hopefully to make things more efficient along the system, and if they can make things like combat more efficient, I think everybody will be in favor of that. As for classes and skills, Fate stat contributions have changed. For all classes except Bjornings, Fate once again gives slightly more max power and power regen, even in combat. For Bjornings, Fate's max morale contribution has been reduced, but its regen contribution has been increased.
Oh,
For non-Bjorn,
I'm actually kind of excited about this.
okay. For non-Bjornings, Fate now gives one. Well, I guess it used to give 1, now it gives 1.5 points of max power, and going from 0 to 0.015 points in combat power regen, and from 0.07 to 0.15 for out of combat power regen. And for Bjornings, Fate now gives from 2.5 to 1 point of max morale, 0.04 to 0.1 points in combat morale regen, and from 0.12 to 0.24 out of combat morale regen.
That actually looks pretty good.
Alright.
And I was just looking at my virtues and wishing that Fate actually was useful for anything.
Okay.
So this is happy news.
This is happy news, okay, with a little bit of...
It doesn't look like it's going to be like the stat to stack, but...
Well, it's probably depends on how important power turns out to be, right?
Fair.
Yeah. Well, and with Sands, don't you still have that big power draw with your hunter needing so much power to be able to just get stuff off?
There is still a danger of running into a power draw. It depends on what I'm doing. But
Yeah.
I haven't had, with better gear and upgraded traceries, I haven't had a significant problem with that.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay.
My main characters that I play don't usually have power problems. They're gonna have morale problems long before they have power problems. But I think it's my Thursday night player, my captain. That one can have a pretty decent power drain if I'm not paying attention to it, and my brawler can burn through power pretty quickly too. So
Yeah, and
Okay.
sustained combat makes it more likely.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sustained combat does that. All right. Now, the most significantly changed class for this week is the Bjorni, where thickened height now grants a multiplicative reduction rather than an additive reduction to your defense. Spartan's Hot now has one additional pulse. Encouraging Roar's Hot no longer tiers up. Its baseline potency is now equivalent to tier 3 of the deprecated tiered effect. Nature's Salve radius has been increased from 8 meters to 20 meters. Nature's Mend is now an AoE 30-meter heal for the fellowship of your target.
Ooh.
Piercing Roar is now a fellowship buff rather than a targeted debuff. The skill is no longer targeted and no longer reduces enemy damage. Piercing Roar cooldown has been increased from 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Piercing Roar now reduces incoming damage to all fellows times 0.75 incoming damage for 10 seconds. Crippling Roar, now Resounding Roar, makes the buff raid-wide and increases its cooldown to 60 seconds. Piercing Roar now costs 10 Wrath. Piercing Roar is now only available to trait when specializing in the Roar. Trample is now an AoE skill and no longer applies a debuff. And the improved Trample trait now increases trample damage by 10% per tier. Now, when they say trample, exactly how does this trample work?
I don't know. I was just thinking, does Krister know that you can trample as a Bjorni?
That's what I was wondering.
Glad I'm not the only one who had that thought.
Yes, because, and just the word trample, I mean, if it has an effect on it that shows the Bjorning trampling on top of them, I think Krister's going to be creating a Bjorning very, very quickly.
I mean, that would be really cool if it does.
Yes.
Because you can use it even if, because right now, like, you can only trample on a heavy war steed. But if you could trample everywhere you went, including inside and outside of buildings, I mean...
Well, I have a feeling it's going to discourage you from trampling on top of friendly NPCs.
Well, yeah, but still, you can't, like, ride a war steed through the building areas, like, even if you're battling inside an instance or whatever. But if you were a Bjorning, you could.
Okay. Now, now I understand. Sort of like an instance like the one where you're in the, in the city, where in the city you're chasing that alchemist and all.
Yeah, or like, for example, if you're in a lower level area where they block out all your war steed skills except for the riding one.
Thief your mischief, yes.
You could totally cruise around and trample stuff in lower level areas because it would be part of your actual skill set, not a riding bound skill set.
Okay. So, for the champion, I better pay attention to this one. See, I've been doing a lot of champion lately. The sprint is now much faster movement buff for a shorter duration, but on a shorter cooldown. I can only think that they're doubling down on the idea of the purpose of sprint is to either chase an enemy or to run away. Terry Adwin, of course, says it's the most useless skill to champ because she will never run away. But catching it, yeah. But anyway, for sprint, the sprint cooldown is reduced from 2 minutes to 30 seconds, but it's 45 seconds in PvP. Sprint potency has been increased from 25% to 50%, or 40% in PvP. Sprint in PvP once again confers immunity to slows. Sprint duration has been reduced to 3 minutes.
No.
3 seconds, sorry, 3 seconds, not 3 minutes or
If it was
3
3
seconds.
minutes, a champion would be my new best friend.
Yeah, 3. Right. So, which is a very, very sharp reduction to it, which is why I'm saying it's doubling down on it being used to chase foes, because 3 seconds might be long enough to chase foes, but using it as an out of combat run speed boost, well, it sort of just pretty much kills it.
Yeah, like when you're trying to run through, what is that place called? I was just there a bunch of times. Airbor, to get up to the throne room. Like, yeah. I mean, you might get it off twice in that length of run if you're not riding a horse, but you may as well just ride a horse. Or a goat.
You're probably better off riding a horse or a goat if you're looking for a speed boost for...
Or run with Pocket Hunter.
Still may as well ride a horse or goat. We're not that fast.
Hunter Leafy Feet is still faster than everybody else is fast, though.
Nope.
No, who's faster still?
Wardens are faster. Bjornings are faster.
Yes, we can't share it with friends.
Bjornings
Oh, you mean the ones that can be shared? Yes, okay.
Bjornings can?
Well, some of theirs they can.
I say captains have one that they can share for a little bit. And the brawler has one that they can share for a little bit.
Captains. Anyway, mounting up is going to be your better bet if you're running a long distance and are allowed to mount, it looks like.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I know that there's been a lot that I know this last week. I've been using Sprint a bit in order to run a little bit faster while going through landscape and stuff like this, but...
Right, because it's been nice to be able to do that on different classes that have the Sprint ability when you don't want to actually take the time to summon your mount and then unsummon it because of what you're actually in the middle of doing.
Yeah, I have a feeling, though, that some of the times where I was using Sprint, I have a feeling that at least half the player base would have summoned their mount instead of what I was doing. I'm less prone to summon my mount than most players are. I don't know the reason why, but I'm less likely to call up my mount than most players are. I know that you would definitely be a lot more likely to call up a mount than I do. You're more likely to call up a war steed.
I would say that depends on whether or not I have a war steed. But yes.
Let's see. Sprint's associated tracery now increases Sprint's buff duration to 3.3 seconds. Athletic trait reduced from 20, 40, 60 to 3, 6, 10 seconds of sprint cooldown reduction per tier because since they reduced the...
Okay, I do have a question though, because this is now like nibbling in the back of my mind. Why are they doing it in thirds, like 3.3, 0.6, instead of doing like 0.25 or 0.5, 0.75?
Oh, it's very... Okay, see, Sprint's associated tracery is up to 3.3 seconds, and I would have to see exactly what the tracery does. Does that mean that is... Because the sprint duration is 3 seconds, if they're saying that...
You can get an extra 0.3 of a second for slotting that tree.
I'm not too sure that's what they're saying. I really need to go on and check with this. I'm thinking that the cyan version will add 3 seconds to the duration, just making it 6 seconds in total. Why they say up to 3.3 seconds is because if you have the gold version, you get an extra 10% over whatever you get from the cyan version. So my guess is that the cyan version is going to give you 3.3 seconds over and above the 3 seconds. I would have to go and check that out on my champion in order to be sure on that. But that would be my guess.
Sense. I was just like, why are they coming up with 0.3, 0.6? Like, how is that working mathematically? Because usually we default to, 0, 25, 50, 75.
But I know that whenever they have a bonus from traceries, you get a 10% extra if it's a gold one over and above. And
the 10% makes sense. Like, when you said that, I was like, okay, that would make sense in my head for that math to work out that way.
Okay, and that will mean then that on a purple one it'll be 2.7, and then it'll be 2.3, I think, on a yellow, or 2.4. I would have to see. I don't. Actually, I should. Maybe I should be, because I think that my Bulbar version champion would have the yellow version still on Bulbar, so I could check to see what the numbers are on that, and that should answer the question. All right, now, so trait athletic.
I'm just really curious because that seemed odd.
Okay, the trait athletic no longer adds a stun proc to sprint, plus 20% raging blade damage and plus 20% blade storm damage. Okay, no one's going to argue with those last two bits. Well, at least none of the champions will. Let's see. For the Guardians now gain plus 10% max morale when specializing in the Defender of the Free.
Yes!
Okay, give me the 10%.
Say, anytime a 10% max morale can be found, take it. 100% take it. No complaints.
Right. And for Runekeepers, Forgative Runestone no longer slows enemies in PvP and now has a cooldown of 30 seconds in PvP. For combat monsters, fixed a potential runaway message loop inside the skill system that would occur when the game server comes under load. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, we would not want that to happen.
Does that mean that it's currently happening on the live server and so they're trying to fix it?
I am guessing that's some... Yeah, because that might be one of the sources of lag.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if that's a... So yes, if that's happening on the live servers currently, then yes, that could be one of those cases where we have random lag where it looks like, wait a minute, I'm not in a raid, I'm doing a solo instance here, I'm all by myself, and why am I getting lag and stuff like this? Well, maybe something like that's happening. As for the Etmors, the vitality bonus from Monster Play Vigor has been reduced slightly. And that's it for the updates for this week. Now, there is another Bulbar next week. I think they're adding the last of the zones next week, and I think that says one of the instances will be up for testing, which means I might actually spend some time on Bulbar, because I may be doing some instance testing. It's just that I don't do much on the landscape quest one in there, because I like to run the storyline fresh on there, so I do little if any real landscape questing, but I'll do some testing on instances and say, okay, well, this looks like it's going to be too hard. We'll see if that's true this time around. Anyway, that's it for round 3 of Bulbar. Next week we expect to have round 4. So next thing we have is that they have released the level cap increase schedule for the Angmar and Mordor servers. Now, let's just say that there are a lot of players who don't enjoy going through Rohan, because and the early parts of Gondor, because that's where you've got mounted combat, and that's where you have epic battles. So because of those two systems, which let's just say they're not the most popular systems in there, I mean, I suspect that most people think of the war steed as a transport horse rather than a place in which to do battle. I would presume, Sans, are you in that department, or do you
Yeah,
use it
I
for both
tried
purposes?
to fight some enemies while riding on my war steed recently. And it was like I didn't even noticeably damage their morale. And I had a maxed out war steed with a maxed out, like, everything I could max out for it. Like, skills were maxed. And, like, you couldn't even tell that I had touched the enemy. So
that means
if
then
I'm
that
not in one of the areas designed for war steed combat in Rohan, I do not usually use it for combat at this point.
That means that war steeds are suffering from the same problem that we have with skirmish soldiers.
Yeah, like they were okay out in front of the gates of Mordor, but they're not. They have not maintained any sort of status beyond level 105-ish.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds. Yeah. All right.
So they didn't get the legendary item revamp either to help them out, because our legendary items were having similar issues. And they were revamped several times, and they didn't touch the war steed system at all.
I mean, well,
legendary items. Yeah. What they did is they removed the bridles from the legendary item system. Now they're an item. The problem is, of course, I think level 105 is the max level of any bridle that's currently in the game.
Yep.
And
for them to make sense, you would have to have landscape that's amenable to using them. And some of our more recent landscapes are too cluttered to be able to easily use a war steed.
I think Rohan is too cluttered for it.
I mean, okay, so the parts of King's Gondor, though, that I was riding through, I think that should have been fine. Like,
King's Gondor should have been fine. And, like, maybe not Umbar Barhabal, but the other areas, like King's Gondor on, works. Yeah. But I'm thinking, like, the Imlad Morgul release, that doesn't really work. Erebor doesn't really work. Yarnfast, those places, like, you can ride a war steed around, but by the time your war steed circles back around, you've lost aggro on and they've reset for whatever it is you're doing. Like, it wasn't designed with war steeding in mind.
I don't really care, though. Like, I feel like if an area is just not conducive to fighting on war steed and you want to try it, you should be allowed to experience the not conducive nature of what you've attempted.
Yeah, and
it shouldn't just be based on, like, your war steed now does no damage against enemies. But to give them some credit, the war steed is also not insta-dying when it hits, like, a little bit of damage from one of the mobs. So
that's true. They did fix that.
That has been fixed and is a huge improvement.
The other thing that I would say is it might be class dependent too. Because, like, if I'm on Cinders, I can use my war steed to fight if I choose to. Because as a lore master, her skills actually do enough damage. But if I try, like, with M as a guardian, she's really just doing it for the fun of being able to trample something and send it flying if she hits it just right.
And I might have needed to try some of my other war steed stances. Like, I didn't play around with it very much except to dismount and one-shot the enemy that was chasing me because I didn't really feel like fooling around with it.
Well, one of the worst cases, though, of using a war steed is Wildermoor. Wildermoor is designed, well, it's not conducive for war steeding, but there are mobs in there that you're expected to fight on a war steed.
Okay, that is true. And that is one of the instances where Terry's trick of binding follow to a keybind really helps. Because you can just follow, hit the enemy that you want to do with the follow keybind and then just hands off your war steed and use your keys.
I do that already. So it's just that even then it's annoying
It is
because
annoying in Wildemore.
In Wildemore it's really annoying. That's just the way it goes. And I'm currently going through Wildemore with a Mariner. And Mariners don't exactly have the best selection of range skills. Fortunately, I have found out that a fire pot on a mounted one is going to kill that. If you are able to hit with a fire pot a mounted enemy with fire pot, you are going to kill that enemy because that thing just burns it down. So I think that's just what I'm going to do. If I run to another mounted I'm just going to stay off my horse, toss a fire pot at it, and watch it melt. because it was really frustrating trying to do mounted combat in Wildemore. Anyway, let's go back to Angmar and Mordor because we're talking about that because, as I was saying, they have decided to shorten the time in which they will go through the Mordor at the Rohan and early Gondor sections. They'll go through, speed that up because those are the ones that are expecting you to use war steeds and in fact that's the reason why I think King's Gondor feels like it's conducive for war steed is because it had to be, because when you're going in the other way you needed a war steed in order to go through the original one, and so it's the same landscape pretty much. But anyway, level cap 85. They're expecting level cap 85 to come on December 3rd, 2025. That means, of course, that's when they're expecting to release the Kingdoms of Harad. So that means with the update, they'll be opening up the first parts of Rohan. Level cap 95. They'll expect that to open up January 14th, 2025. That means 6 weeks later. So it looks like 6 weeks of this. So then they were planning to go up to level 100 on February 18th. And February 18th, so that'll be 5 weeks later on that. So therefore, we're going to have in Eastern Rohan 6 weeks, Western Rohan 5 weeks, and then we don't know how long it's going to be for the early parts of Gondor. But let's see, the level 100 I think goes all the way up to Minas Tirith though, so yeah, probably spend a little more time there. But I know that there's some unfun things that go on in Gondor because our mariners and the Merry Crew were currently going through. We're just finishing up on Minas Tirith and heading over to the Jordan Woods. So we're getting out there, getting ready to do Pelennor and all that stuff. But we had a lot of trouble doing Minas Tirith because I could not do Pelargir. So therefore, we jumped from doing Pelargir all the way up to Minas Tirith. And of course, trying to do Minas Tirith under level is, let's just say, not fun.
Why couldn't you do Pelargir?
I just kept on losing it. I just don't have the patience to do Pelargir enough times in order to win. Because that is one of my least favorite instances, and the fact that I have a lot of trouble getting through it, and it's one of my least favorite instances. That that pair just frustrates me because NPCs keep on dying in there. Okay, your NPC is dead. Okay, fine. The half hour you just spent is for nothing.
And
Yeah.
it has to be done single player?
No, it could be but it's designed for I think is it 1, 2, and 6, I think. And of course we have a 4-player group. So no, we're
So you guys didn't just divide and do it in twos?
actually I don't know if you can do it. Is it 1, 2, 6, or is it just 1 and 6? Any case, I couldn't get through it, and there's no way I think that we could have won the 6-player version. So
Okay.
I just don't. A lot of people make jokes to me about Pelargir because I am notorious for detesting that particular epic battle. Not that I like the other epic battles too much better either, but at least the ones in Rohan give you the option of bypassing it, with the storyline.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Pelargir doesn't have the storied version of it. I did manage to get through the Minas Tirith ones. I find those annoying, but I'm able to get through them at least.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I was just curious.
Yeah, okay. Now, also note that for our level 85 and 95 level cap increases, we will be activating several boosts to assist players for completing this content within the scheduled time frame because they shortened it down to a shorter period of time. Plus 50% to XP, plus 30% to Virtue XP, and plus 25% to Crafting XP. All right, so that's what's going on in the Angmar and Mordor servers. They will be announcing what's happening to later levels afterwards because I think there is another pain spot which they may be also going to an accelerated rate after that. We'll have to see. But for now, if you want to go through the area at a leisurely pace rather than the pace that they're showing here, you may need something like a Tortoise Stone or something like that to keep from getting your XP too fast. But I have a feeling that those who want to put stops like that might already have Tortoise Stones anyway, so I'm hoping that most of them who might be wanting a Tortoise Stone might be the same ones who already would have one. Also, with Scenario, he did a casual stroll through the instances and interiors for the new content. Now, they did not yet have him populated or anything like that on there. It was just showing off the various spaces there. We have a link to the YouTube video for that. And finally, SSG is announcing, of course, they are once again participating in Extra Life. And this case, Standing Stone Team Extra Life 2025. You can support Standing Stone Games at Extra Life Teams. You join or donate at extra-life.org/team/Standing Stone Games. The Standing Stone Games has Extra Life 2025. They talk about that their goal is $30,000 for a Team Standing Stone Games. And they talk about why Extra Life. Extra Life is a charitable organization that unites thousands of gamers throughout the world to play games in support of their local Children's Miracle Network hospital. And if you donate, if you do donate, you will need to send enough information to Cordovan so that he will know about your donation, so that if you want any of the incentives, let he'll know where to send the incentives. So please fill out a little survey if you wish to receive your incentives. And as if you get incentives if you donate at least $10, you can pick one item from the community loot list. and an entry into every giveaway. For $20, 2 additional picks from the community list. For $40, 3 additional picks from the community loot list. And for $60, 4 additional picks from the community loot list. So therefore, if you donate $60, that would be a total of 10 picks, because that's 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. If you wish to receive multiple of the same item, just indicate that on your survey to them. That might be that if it's an item that is a consumable, something like it's an emote that goes to only one character, then if you want 5 copies because you have 5 different characters, assuming that you've donated at least $40 on there, then you could specify that how many copies you want of that particular item. And you can make your donation to any member of the Team Standing Stone games. So it's not just if you donate to Corbin, but if you donate to any member of Team Standing Stone games, you could send it in and note on that, the note on it, because that will count for any of those particular incentives. If you're not sure what you want at the time you make the donations, feel free to wait until you're ready to send your survey. Just make sure that you get it to them before the end of November. And if you have any questions, please contact Community Manager Cordovan through the forums. And then he gives what is currently on the community loot list. And one of the things that they note in here is that those old-fashioned Maven titles are now in the loot list. So, for example, if Krister wanted to be known as the Fashionable, then he could choose that as one of the titles that he gets it. All right, but there are also there are some cosmetic items like a ceremonial cloak of the Misty Knight, a few housing items such as the best house in the neighborhood trophy. So therefore, I think there used to be an NPC that would sometimes go around to check the neighborhoods and all that stuff and give awards for that. So that's available as a title through the community loot list. And you get a Samwise Gamgee loyal housing attendant through that, a sleepy gray cat, several game titles. So, yeah, let's say half of these at least are game titles. A couple of mounts like the Carmelo Steed, Perlino Steed, Steed of the Red Dawn, and Steed of the White City. Some musical instruments, the Bardic Fiddle, the Lonely Mountain Fiddle, the Sprightly Fiddle, and the Traveler's Trusty Fiddle. And several pets like the Chestnut Corgi, Lively Slug, Spirit Bear, Spotted Corgi, Tundra Cub, and the portrait frame, the Blue Drake frame. You can see the full list in the link that we have in the show notes. And that's it for the news for this week. So let's go into our store sales. Cinders, what's on sale? I'm not Cinders. Sanswinder, what's on sale this week?
This week, you can pile up double bonus points plus get double bonus points plus an elixir of virtue through tomorrow, November 2nd. If you're listening to this on Monday, it is too late. You can store, carry, and share. Get 25% off select vault storage and shared storage, and select inventory slots through November 6th. And our weekly coupon is an enhanced XP supply with the coupon code DOUBLEIT, DOUBLEIT, now through November 6th.
I could just imagine someone on the Angmar server using this along with the other bonuses they've got. All right. Let's see. So let's go into our week in gaming then. Cinders, do you have anything you want to say about your week in gaming, or do you have, since you can't read right now?
I can't read right now, but I can say it and Sans can type it in for me. Or I can type it in later when I do the show notes. And I spent some time this weekend and well, I guess week really. With one of my 2 days that I was home and had spare time, I got on and I to Sting, and I took my my Monday night character out and managed to, without realizing it, get to exactly the right spot with her to be ready to go on Monday night. So that was fun. But that was really all that I did this week, because I just have not been at my computer. So I'm looking forward to a busier week this next week. What were you up to, Sans?
I did some more cooking and inventory management in LOTRO, and used up some XP tomes, which was nice, Virtue XP tomes. And I did some more of the Solstice or Battle for the Writhing Wall activities in ESO with Gorindus this week, which was fun. And I played a few days on my Stardew Valley Forest Farm. And that was pretty much what I did this week. How was your week, Pineleaf?
All right. I was playing quite a bit on my champion this week, where I was running the Legacy of Morgoth storyline. And also, I was doing quite a number of missions, because the idea there is I was working on the legendary item track. And I was using that in order to help to build up the legendary item for my champion, because if you remember last week, I think the state of it was virtually all of my traceries were yellow. And so I thought, all right, let's see if I could help to finish up the reward track, before the end of November, and at the same time help to spruce up my legendary items on my champion. I think they're now starting to get to a reasonable tier level. I mean, they're not as good as the ones I have on my Warden or my Runekeeper, but I think they're at a reasonable place there. I think I could still use a few more levels on some of them, so maybe some more enhancement runes would be in order in there, but I guess I'm probably going to get a few of them, especially by doing missions in Gundabad, where you have the daily, which get you some of those. Yeah, the task at hand weekly, where the reward for that, if you take the LI one, you get a couple of enhancement runes for that. So I've been working my champion slowly up into there, and so I was able to participate in the Friday night fight with Mythgard this week, and my champion, I think, did a lot better than last week. Because last week I was pretty low on what I was, but I think my champion is starting to get up there where I'm able to survive doing the 150 content in the group. So I think that works. Maybe I could try a couple outings with Cinders if she ever has a chance in the near future, and see how I'm doing in there. Of course, I'm not going to be in too much danger, because you got Cinders there, who, well, is the epitome of a tank when when she's on her guardian. And my lore master was finishing up the Udun storyline. So that means I'm getting ready to head up into Gorgoroth and running into all those weird things and whatever that darkness thing is called that you have in there. And for the field trip, we ran several skirmishes. And that's it for my weekend gaming. We currently have 11 supporters on Patreon. If you'd like to join this illustrious raid and help support LOTRO players, you go to the native page to support the Players Alliance on Patreon. Your money will be used for podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. And special thanks to the Sentinels of the West on the Peregrine RP server. And on there, you can contact Hodothian. We do not have any comments this week, but if you like send one, you can send it to podcast@lotraplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows each week on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We have LOTRO Players News, and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You guys choose for our shows at lotraplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight then. This is Pilot Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.